Okay. Um, First of all, I just want to say thank you, God. I want to start off with that. And the reason why I make my videos is because every day it's about, um, it's because my brain is being manipulated. They, they are truly making me think in these illogical ways, but I understand the reality of things. I'm just, like, it takes so much not, like, I don't even get angry anymore because I know how easy it is to put things in perspective. And now I don't even just do it. I make videos. I hope I make sense, and I hope it's not too much of gibberish going on here, but it can easily be because unfortunately my brain is being altered. And I've been saying that, and I know this is something they've been able to do for a long time. But the way this perps around you, and not even just the perps around you, but how it's presented to you as you're being altered. You have people who try to convince you that you're not being altered, you're not being manipulated, you're not being rewired. Uh, and they use verbiage like we're mapping, right? I guess when they say that, it's supposed to mean that they're not manipulating my brain, but somehow they're just pairing something else to something. Like they do everything but manipulating the brain. And I think the use of mapping for them is a way to try to make it seem like I'm not being altered. They're clowns, and they really like wanted to be taken serious. I'm like, don't worry, I'll take you serious. Listen to this. You just heard, and let me just say that your brain is so altered and so rewired and so manipulated that your thought process is so deeply manipulated. It's ridiculous. I'm listening to Joe Rogan, right? He's having a conversation with this man. They talk about bipolar, right? This is what you're hearing here. He's talking about bipolar and how, and as I'm saying that, it stimulated me to kind of create an anxiety feeling. It's all my brain is so altered, and I can feel it being manipulated. And as I'm saying that, they tell me to disorient me. They like to say what horrible things I'm going to go through. It's a gaslighting method. So, like I said, I have an ecosystem of people who try to disorient reality. I love to put that in their face. Listen, my brain is so altered that it's going to go along with the way they want me to think. I understand that, but I can still, at least at this point, able to express myself. This man is talking about, and actually, he was talking about how bipolar and those mental disease, a lot of it also can come from childhood trauma. That alone they start to manipulate, but I'll get to that point later on. They say that they were talking about how like a lot of these conditions, a lot of it can be due to some trauma happening, childhood trauma, right? And so then they go ahead, and you're gonna hear the what part I'm talking about, and um, start talking about how it's so hard for psychiatrists to kind of figure out what you have because you yourself have to describe what's going on in your brain, and then once you're describing, the psychologist is supposed to map out or map this territory. He used the word map because at this point he's trying to figure out, okay, based on what he's saying, this is coming from this place. It's probably coming from, based on what he's reacting, these feelings that are happening these ways. He's like they're supposed to map this out to figure out what condition that person has. Listen, my brain is so altered that they, like you see, he used the word map. We're mapping. Listen, my brain has gone to the level. If even when they talk about mapping about something else, they try to make me connect with this. They're not mapping my brain. My brain is no longer my brain. They are manipulating my brain. Now, at one point, I'm sure they had to map my brain frequency so they can capture and start manipulating me. My brain is so ravagely manipulated. My thought processes are so altered. I'm so not myself anymore. Every experiences I'm experiencing today is manipulated. And they send these retards, these childlike people, who, to put me in that level of mental retardation, they get to that level. I swear there's some perp right outside who say, "Oh, I'm so impressed," because they talk about how it's so stupid. It is the way they have truly dumbed themselves down to become clowns to try to make me accept of this is ridiculous. Obviously, I clearly know that my brain is altered, and I'm never going to be myself again. As I'm speaking about it right now, I can feel like my bones shaking because this technology can not only attack the mind but also the body using these energy weapons. They're trying to say that this pedophilia things that they force you to react to have these reactions is maps, which it means. Listen to how retarded it means. It means that they can pair it to something I experienced when I was a child. So in their logic, in the way they want me to logically accept this manipulation is they're making me experience something I've experienced in my childhood. Basically saying that this is them being very sensical. That they're making my brain the brain I had at one point when I was a child when I was experiencing that. They mapped it to that. That they paired it to something I experienced when I was a child. On its own, it's extremely childlike. I gotta say, it's retarded. Because they're admitting that they're changing my brain to my brain as a child. Even though if I experienced that, it was a childhood experience. That I've experienced it, and now they try to mix it up. It's like, no, but you actually. And they really want to sound logical. That's what they want to use that term mapping. Right? Because like this psychiatrist talk about or whatever it is, mapping makes sounds more like it doesn't sound like manipulation. And they use a lot of people. First of all, please understand. This woman said it very clear. Psychiatrists, people of all levels are involved in this program. This is a program ran by the governmental entities. We're talking about the DARPA. We're talking about the intellectuals of intellectuals. We're talking about some of the smartest human beings on earth. And they're using this technology to cognitively weaponize this technology onto us. It is a weapon system that can break you down psychologically. And they're using the most retarded human beings you can imagine, on top of the smartest people too, to gaslight you into accepting these things. As soon as they manipulate you in these ways, as soon as they want you to start thinking these ways, they start disorienting me. This is the tactic they do. This is, for me, gaslighting is commonly used. Because what they want to do is to confuse you and make you lose sense of reality. Gaslighting, if you ever Google what gaslighting is to create a false reality. And so one thing they love to do is as soon as they go into this retardation of logic or sensicalness or rationality, they start talking about how I'm going to be castrated, how I'm going to be kidnapped and this and that. They say random things. The reason why they're saying that is not just to let me know that it's going to happen to me. First of all, they try to use this fear tactic to make it look like, oh, it makes so much sense this is going to happen to you. One. Second of all, it's because they want you to start thinking about that and boxing this retardation of logic. I'm like, no, I know what you're trying to do. The thing with them, too, the humiliating reality is they do the same things to other people. So, they can use the term mapping, mining, or all kind of, but they do the same things to others. So it's not even just like unique to you, but they do these consistent tactics to other target individuals that describe the things exactly like you. And on top of that, they get humiliated. That there is documentation that literally altering the brain has been worked on since the 60s. They have a whole, there's a project called Project Pandora, where the Department of Defense, DARPA, was working on electromagnetic frequencies onto monkeys to see how they can alter the brain. And there's clear validation that is something they've been working on and still working on. And when they do these things to us, these people who've been literally documenting, oh, they rewire the thought process. It's like an offensive warfare, offensive information warfare. So they are trying to break you down, to push you into suicide, to walk you to your death. For me, it's going to be like that for the rest of my life. I've understood that. But these perps are participating and they want to live that life. in that fantasized reality. I'm like, no, if you're gonna do this to me, I'm gonna make sure you're blessed, and you're gonna make me feel so special, because you have to dumb yourself down. Not all of them are on the same spectrum. Like, listen, Perps is very much childlike people, losers of losers, but there's also very intellectual people, because everybody want to participate and enjoy this. We talk about technology that can alter your brain. They're not mapping my what they can make me sure. Jesus, their job every day to rewire me in these disgusting ways. When I mean, let me just say, when they say mapping the way they say, it's not that way. They're mapping my brain frequency so they can manipulate me. So they mapped the territory of my brain to connect it to their devices, because what's happening, the way they capture your brain is they have created a device of some sort, right? And I'm not a great person to explain this, but you're going to hear from somebody who can explain better than me. They have created devices somehow that can mimic your brain signals. Because that device has the exact same brain signals as yours, after being able to map your brain somehow connect to this device. Once you are connected to this device, it locks in. You start mimicking your brain frequencies start mimicking that device. So now they can make you experience whatever thoughts by manipulating those frequencies that they initially map your brain to mimic it. Now your brain is matching the frequency of that device. So you're connected to this device that can make you have all this kind of reaction. So you're no longer yourself, you are just manipulated. And they call it word mapping. Is a way to sound like they're not manipulating your brain to experience these things. And for me, they've been trying to present all kind of people. Some people they try to make it look like they're good, some good like individual, like some like good doers, or some like very like woke progressive. Sometimes they even try to bring like psychiatrists. I'm like, oh, of course they what? Jesus, you know how many the Department of Defense type of psychiatrists they have? These people who specialize in cognitive warfare. These tactics of forcing people to get this nasty reaction to children is not unique to me. Like I said, this is a system they've done to others. They use this pedophilia type of torture to torment target individual. It's validated because other people are saying the same thing. This is not unique to me. It's because somebody there knows like, okay, if we're doing this as a weapon, what weapon system, how can we use that to weaponize this? We make somebody have sexual reaction to children. So they make you have this sexual reaction to children. Then for me, they're like, no, but we mapped it to you. You feel like that when you were a kid, not trash. You're falsifying my reaction in real time, and they're even manipulating memories in my childhood, which is retarded on its own, because you're saying that you're making my brain as a child. Why would you do that? Unless you want to make me mentally handicapped. Somebody who has strong autism, perhaps. They're clowns. That is their job, but I'm putting that in their faces as much as I can. And every once in a while, right? They have these ways of trying to like confuse you, because obviously they know you as a person for real. They know the real you. Their job is to change you and to make you acceptive of the changes. So they will say some random things. Oh, impress me. It's like, okay, you're such an idiot. So you think I don't? You guys will manipulate me now? How do you think target individual? The trickeries of these perps are ridiculous. For me, it is. I mean, I know the videos are getting very similar to one another, but it's okay. Because at this point, I'm making as many as I can, and I do believe in the fact that you put things in the air, you put things in the universe, you speak it up, it's going to come. The, the, these people truly have this ability to gaslight you in ways that's just so retarded. But I love to show them how stupid they have to make themselves be. It's not back and forth. I don't even argue with these people. I'm just like, here, yeah, really? Okay, you're right. You obviously don't alter my brain. different. You're mapping. These people are clowns. But for me, I'm like, okay, well, listen. Do you remember when I said the preferred type of torture? Let me just say how scary it is and how similar things are with target individual. It's so ridiculous. They are so. When I mean ridiculous, ridiculous in the sense that the similarities, the systematicness of everything. When you hear a target individual describing things, and you're like, oh my goodness. And I'm supposed to think that you guys are not doing that to me. That you're mapping in a sense that is not manipulation. No, but you felt like that when you were a kid. We mapped it to you as a child. I was like, what? I'm a grown man. And now you're forcing me to have these experiences. And really try to make me accept it. You hear the noise campaign. I don't know if you can capture that. There's a whole ecosystem. Like I said, this is an open air lab of people around you, a control environment where they do their part by noise campaigns every time they force you to think in these ways. Listen, I am not a genius. I'm not stupid, but I'm not a genius at the same time. But man, there's nothing more validating to hear the things that we go through. And it's so similar. So similar. Target individuals do never, ever identify with this. To me, I have clowns, and they look at their phones like, oh, because I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, don't worry. Listen, for me, I know as much as I'm speaking, as much as I'm expressing myself, my brain is going to be manipulated. I've accepted reality. First things first is just accepting the reality that your brain is no longer yours. You are being altered on a daily basis. August 19, 2019, my brain has not been mine. And I remember they were saying that, but they understood what it meant. They meant that my brain is locked in with this device and they can manipulate me however they want me to. The way they manipulate me is disturbing, it's very pedophilia centric. It is nasty, but it's not unique to me. So I gotta find strength, and I'm so thankful that other target individuals have expressed it. Because now, of course, I knew myself in the first place. It's like, this is not me. But on top of that, I know they manipulate the brain these pedophilia ways. And I love the fact that people are describing the same things I'm describing. And I'm looking at these clowns like, now we're mapped. Trash you, a bunch of low-life pedophiles that manipulate the brain these pedophilia ways for this purpose of cognitive warfare. Because we are just test subject in this weapon development. And you're trying to use whatever language that doesn't sound like manipulations. Because that's what's happening. They are changing your brain. And they're reconstructing your brain to experience what you experience. You will not experience none of it unless they were in your brain, forcing you to experience that. So they try to find ways to not sound like they're manipulating brains, and try to find and try to sound intellectual too. Well, let me intellectually say that my brain is being manipulated, and then you trying to find ways to make me accepting of this, and they use very childlike people. I'm like, you're a clown. Talk about how I'm gonna be castrated, so you think I'm gonna subscribe to it? Target individuals, stay strong. Stay strong. Another thing they were talking about in this podcast is about trauma and children who gone through a lot of things as children tend to grow up with mental handicap of some sort, conditions, and they're talking about bipolar. I'm like, and they're like, what they want me to forget is that they actually torture children. You know what? When they say they're mapping to, when I was in middle school, I was 13, 14 years old. I did this dumb thing to myself, which never happened again. The reason why they try to make me think now what we're doing, we're mapping, and it's not them manipulating, apparently, is because I did some dumb thing to myself as a child in middle school. Never happened again. They try to exaggerate it. Unfortunately, for them, it's not ever going to be what they wanted. But they try to make it sound like, oh, you traumatized this girl. You did it. No, I did not. She's now a 28 something year old. She's living. I follow her on Instagram just for the purpose because they were trying to paint her as like this traumatized person because what I did as a child. Like, no, first of all, you try to exaggerate what I did as a child. And this low life that you're talking to me are actually involved in the program, regardless of the experience they had. I don't care if this is I'm the first, but they involved in a program that where they knowingly torture children in horrible ways, and for sure these kids are damaged. For sure these kids are traumatized because they go through horrible things. And some of them is for a long time. And there's no way these kids are not growing up to be traumatized. And they evolve in that. But going back to me, the reason why when they force me to get this sexual stimulation and want me to be like, now we're mapping, remember today, no, 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 you're forcing me to have these experiences. But these experiences are now unique to me. They do these things to others. I don't know what they say. It's like, oh, we mapped it to. No. Listen to this. This is out of all the testimonials, I never heard something so similar to me. It's scary. Because it's just extremely like. And she even described the perps in a way that I can kind of relate to. She says this new perps. The perps is what we call as this employed, contracted trash by the government that implement these tactics onto us. She describes them as this people who are supposed to be like an organization of goodness, right? These good people came in, but things changed. The way they started torturing her changed. They started doing a lot of psychological torture, which consisted of manipulation of the libido. Of course, guess what? The manipulations. The manipulations are some disgusting manipulations. Please listen to this. I hope that I'm able to capture this properly. Listen to this.
Every night. And I thought how that could happen, but then I told them that they would never take my will, and since we all know how the psychopaths groups work with what the TI says or does, of course this is not new, because one main thing this program is out there is called behavior modification for the undesirable, and that's one of the excuses this groups give for the neighbor TO join, deception. I learned to talk back in my mind during the process when I was awakened, and I would say demeaning things that I cannot repeat in this blog. You know what I mean. Since they had violated me for so long, I decided to aggravate them with words in my mind. I can hear my own voice. I told them I'm going to make you pay for all of the years of torture that I've taken, and all you are going to hear is aggravation. For every single second of my privacy that you have taken away. From me and my family. Then said this: the slaves began a program of perversion. First was with my dog. I am very playful with my pet, and suddenly one day that I was petting him I felt strange, in the sense of the word. I thought, this is strange, and then afterwards that strange sensation continued. Then in that moment I realized that was impost, so I thought, look at this losers, don't know how to put me down, and they are doing this. So I told them that I know what you are trying to do, and I started laughing, and then I said again out loud, you'll never take my will, ASS, so just to show them that I meant what I said, I kept playing with my dog, and even though that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today, they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use of people, better said young people, also children and homosexuals. When I'm programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use of people, better said young people, also children and homosexuals.
Understand that they play with the libido first of all in these horrible ways. It's a way they disturb us. It's so disgusting. It's so disgusting. They can make you have sexual arousals in like in just turn it on and turn it off. It's no shame. This thing I put that in their face every day. Every day. I'm never gonna let them escape.
They use they use these monarch style torture programs, like it's based on sex and trauma. So they're gonna traumatize you. They're gonna use your libido to get back at you,
And so this trash literally want me to think that my brain is not being altered, even though I know this has been happening.
In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day.
These people, they want me to somehow let them go into escapism. I mean, there's things like that.
Individual's head. And once you can do that, it voices into an individual's head. And once you can do that, you can control them using neuro-linguistic programming techniques. You're rewiring their thought processes and brains. And so this gets into what's called offensive information warfare.
I mean, it's crazy. These people literally are doing everything possible to somehow think that I'm not going to see them for what they're doing. For me, I put that in their faces till I can't, and I actually find satisfaction doing that too. Listen to this.
Maybe, but not if you listen to Nick Begich. I think there's some good evidence that Cheryl Welch and many of the other people I've spoken with have been victimized by this electromagnetic mind control experiments. The weapons of this century aren't bombs and bullets and ordnance, but electromagnetic energy targeting the human being, which is a greatest revolution in military affairs since gunpowder. Begich is an expert in government mind control. He is convinced the Pentagon has mastered a technology once thought to be science fiction, the ability to broadcast information directly into the human brain. Our government began spending a lot of time looking at how to modify behavior of human beings. And going back to the Korean War, in fact, in a publication, Low-Intensity Conflict in Modern Technology, they have a chapter on electromagnetic weapon systems, being able to not just debilitate someone, but actually even to stimulate certain activities within the brain. Recognize modification applications. The other was the effect on human beings. If you can modulate a signal that the brain locks onto, recognizes, and begins to mirror or follow the frequency following response. The brain rhythms change, then it creates a chemical cascade within the brain, and the emotions change. Now the resolution gets finer and finer and finer. And it used to just to be about triggering emotions. You could change people's brain chemistry pretty readily, change their emotional state pretty easily. But when you get down to the idea of thoughts and being able to manipulate those, that requires a different kind of sophistication. Can we hear sounds?
Okay. You see how obvious things are? Can you imagine them still trying to make me think I'm not being altered? I'm not being manipulated? My brain's not being... No, they try to use a word that somehow I'm using map. They try to just... They want to utilize a term that doesn't sound like they are manipulating the brain. They are making me experience what I'm experiencing. And sometimes the logic is like, no, but it is your brain that we're manipulating. Yes, you are making me experience something that I will not experience in my brain. They have perps who don't have self-respect because they can't. Part of the gaslighting is to be able to deal with shameful, like, you have to be shameless, I should say, in the sense that you shouldn't care about how stupid you sound. You can't respect yourself. You can't be somebody with self-respect to be like, oh, man, I'm not gonna be this. This is obviously, it's clear. No, just say mapped it. You mapped it, right? Stupidity. I was like, okay, mapped it. Listen to this. By the way, let me just show you how they wanted me to identify with this. Listen to this piece of the podcast, and then you're gonna hear the reality of what this is about. And then we're gonna hear what they do to children and how these children are traumatized because of what they go through. They have the audacity to make me think that, no, you pay for it. What? They traumatize children in ways that's so horrible. The true evilness is not only what they're going to do to me, but the evilness is that they're involved in torturing children. But try to block that out and normalize that. I will never let this low life to live their fantasy. I'll put that in their face. That means more torture for me, I know. Because they truly want to escape into a false reality. Listen to this. listen to what they wanted to connect with, to make me think they're not manipulating my brain, because Joe Rogan talks about mapping this and that. That according, so according to that, they're not manipulating my brain. Then listen to reality.
And often the result of trauma, right? I mean, in both cases, it destroys relationships. I mean, it's like it's a very, very tough deal.
Yeah.
And often the result of trauma, right? I mean, in both cases of these people that I care about, they were traumatized as children, and so it often produces that terrible behavior that then just fulfills itself your whole life. It's absolutely tragic.
The crazy thing is they don't even know, like some people, it's not even trauma. They just get it.
So there's
They
some
just have it.
neurochemical stuff,
Yeah.
but trauma is a known correlate to like bipolar as an adult.
The crazy thing about mental illness is that it's just no one can really tell what's going on in your head, and it's up to you to talk to your psychiatrist or whatever and try to explain it.
Right.
And they have to try to like make a map of the territory, but no one knows how you think about things other than you.
And are you an honest reporter on your own experience?
Right.
So if you're telling your shrink about the fight you had with your wife the other night, are you really being an honest?
Right.
And what bipolar people.
Wishes to hand down.
Hello. Why? Because it hurts. I need help. I need you guys to come get me. It's brutally painful. I have a house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms.
Ms. Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today.
I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions. I observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, ow. I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe
and have had a decent education. I live in El Dorado Hills, California, with my wife of 14 years, Lorna, and our 5 children. Nicole is 15, Patricia 14, Christopher 13, Dylan 9, and Avery 16 months old. Not only have I been going through this, but my entire family has suffered right by my side. We have all experienced the same type of harassment on different levels. We have all suffered the same symptoms while this harassment was going on. Some of our physical symptoms include severe tooth decay and vision loss, unexplained rashes and burns, severe headaches, mood swings, anxiety, thyroid problems, high blood pressure, heart problems, vision loss, and cancer. Two of my children were born premature, which I attribute to this. Our son Dylan, now age 9, was born very premature. He was born at 31 weeks. During her pregnancy with Dylan, we were being targeted more so than other times. At the delivery, there were weird men walking and waiting around the hospital. Right outside our delivery room window, there was a white cargo van parked with 2 suspicious men inside. They were there the entire labor, a delivery. Our son had to be transported to another hospital 45 minutes away. When arriving to the Toa hospital, those same men and van were present. Three of my children have severe rashes that have not been explained by several doctors. These rashes have been present for several years at a time. If interested, I will gladly furnish you with detailed photos of the rashes. Our infant daughter, at 3 weeks old, was diagnosed with Lerner's syndrome. This was after a severe rash appeared on her body after a few days of torture. We were told by a couple doctors to take her home and love her and spend the rest of the time we have with her. They told us she would ultimately die from this syndrome. Thank God that Lerner's syndrome was not what affected our daughter. Doctors are still dumbfounded by her rash and symptoms. Sadly, we know that her symptoms were effects from the torture this poor innocent 3-week-old baby endured.
Or EEG.
In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969. But DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day. Human mind can be altered. In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior.
Of innocent citizens being controlled by government-sanctioned experiments? Is Cheryl Welch telling the truth, or are her claims absurd? Just another conspiracy theory that's impossible to prove? Maybe. But not if you listen to Nick Begich.
I think there's some good evidence that Cheryl Welch and many of the other people I've spoken with have been victimized by this electromagnetic mind control experiments. The weapons of this century aren't bombs and bullets and ordnance, but electromagnetic energy targeting the human being, which is a greatest revolution in military affairs since gunpowder.
Begich is an expert in government mind control. He is convinced the Pentagon has mastered a technology once thought to be science fiction, the ability to broadcast information directly into the human brain.
our government began spending a lot of time looking at how to modify behavior of human beings. Going back to the Korean War, in fact, in a publication, Low-Intensity Conflict in Modern Technology, they have a chapter on electromagnetic weapon systems, being able to not just to debilitate someone, but actually even to stimulate certain activities within the brain.
But how?
HARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, which started as a joint effort of the Air Force and Navy. This is a very large array or field of antennas based in Alaska, radio frequency antennas.
HARP antennas transmit powerful radio signals into the upper atmosphere to study the effects on wireless communications. But Begich says HARP can also be used for more sinister ends.
HARP has announced several other programs and campaigns, and there's two areas that I got very concerned about. One was weather modification applications. The other was the effect on human beings. If you can modulate a signal that the brain locks onto, recognizes, and begins to mirror or follow the frequency following response. The brain rhythms change, then it creates a chemical cascade within the brain and the emotions change. Now the resolution gets finer and finer and finer. And it used to just to be about triggering emotions. You could change people's brain chemistry pretty readily, change their emotional state pretty easily. But when you get down to the idea of thoughts and being able to manipulate those, that requires a different kind of sophistication.
Can we hear sounds?
Designed to interact with the human nervous system in order to remotely pick up on someone's neural network or EEG and not only receive that and monitor it, but manipulate it and place it back into the victim to control their emotions or control their actions or bodily functions for that matter. The other more recent term we have for that is EEG heterodyning or EEG cloning. The difference between EEG heterodyning and EEG cloning would be, let's say, me remotely receiving your EEG and then duplicating it and putting that in another person to give them your same thoughts or feelings or physical reactions. EEG heterodyning would be receiving your EEG, manipulating it to put it back inside your head to give us a desired physical reaction or emotional reaction.
With external fields of all kinds. For radio frequency, you can look at the Radio Frequency Dosimetry Handbook, 1986, University of Utah, produced for the Air Force. It gives you the resonant frequencies for each vital organ so that you can send in a radio signal that will couple with the liver, the kidneys, the lungs, and cause them to malfunction so that you can degrade the performance of your adversary. The new weapon systems being developed today will attack the mind, the body, and our physiology on an energetic level. Not with bullets and bombs. It's a perfect Republican weapon. No offense to Republicans here, but you don't want to destroy the property. You're going to have to rebuild it afterwards. This is a weapon systems of the 21st century. It's the very beginning of it in a lot of ways, but the research goes back over 50 years.
My name is Dr. John Hall. I'm a medical doctor from Texas. As I understand the memorandum from the President, it's for you to determine if current legislation is adequate in protecting individuals and if there's any ongoing experimentation. In reviewing the common rule, it's very obvious that there's a lot of loopholes to informed consent. All of the horrific experiments you've mentioned, Willowbrook, MK Ultra, radiation experiments, mostly were done without informed consent. They were funded by the DoD and intelligence agencies, where I'm not even so sure you would know if there's an IRB, much less if an IRB is looking at informed consent. As a physician, relative to some of what you're hearing today, in the community, we are seeing an alarming rate of complaints of use of electromagnetic weapons. Microwave auditory effects, silent sound spectrum, EEG cloning, which has taken the lab out of the laboratory and into the home. Most of these, from the research that we reviewed, can be done remotely. It seems to be more weapons research than medical research. I've personally corresponded with upwards of 1,500 victims, all complaining of identical complaints from every state in the nation of being exposed to electromagnetic radiation. non-ionizing radiation for the use of cognitive control or behavior control. I've submitted a paper to you, and there's another paper submitted to each member from another physician in Kansas City, alluding to the same thing.
You do that, you can control them using neuro-linguistic programming techniques. You're rewiring their thought processes and brains. And so this gets into what's called offensive information warfare. And they used it, I believe, in the Gulf War. You can call it a eugenics program even. But also walk them to their... They want to see if they can... Hyper game theory. How do you... They want to see if they can manipulate people to do things that are irrational, but also walk them to their death. And so you can call it a eugenics program even. And they need to sample all cultures, language throughout the world to define their probability matrices of which tricks, techniques, deception works. So how do you control a brain? Most people don't believe that. Well, you can't control me. I have my own free will.
V2K, or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as just
It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. This disgusting, disgusting, disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know. I don't care.
This is a common breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds. And vice versa.
They use these monarch-style torture programs. Like, it's based on sex and trauma. So they're going to traumatize you, they're going to use your libido to get back at you, and
This technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal.
Experience what is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of planted dreams and form of torture. They coordinate the voice. I really mean extreme. I experienced an entire night with forced spontaneous orgasms repeatedly all through the night, one right after another, with maybe around 1 hour of sleep or so, as I lay immobilized in my bed.
In my mind, I can hear my own voice. I told them I'm going to make you pay for all of the years of torture that I've taken, and all you are going me and my family. Ben said the slaves began a program of perversion. First was with my dog. I am very playful with my pet, and suddenly one day that I was petting him I felt strange, in the sense of the word. I thought, this is strange, and then afterwards that strange sensation continue. Then in that moment I realized that was impost, so I thought, look at this losers, don't know how to put me down, and they are doing this. So I told them that I know what you are trying to do, and I started laughing, and then I said again out loud, you'll never take my will, ass. So just to show them that I meant what I said, I kept playing with my dog, and even though that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use of people, better said young people, also children and homosexuals. When I aggravated them I able to impose any information on the brain of a person, presumably by some kind of waves, which in the mind take the form of voices, thoughts and images and imagination. In addition to this kind of implanting information that they need, they manipulate the psyche so that the information is written into your memory. Then by stimulating the certain regions in the brain they can retrieve this information and present it as your own memory. This is the conclusion that can be made judging by the influence they have been making on me with their psychotronic weapons, for example artificial thoughts, imagination, and mental torture.
I also often see highly disturbing pornographic images and videos, including highly disturbing pedophilia type of images and videos when I close my eyes.
Be my guess that this person developed delusional disorder. This is a paranoid schizophrenia. But first of all, nobody develops paranoid schizophrenia in the 50s, in their 50s. This is, if you haven't developed it by 30, it's not. Then this technology exists. These nefarious programs exist. And it's hard to imagine for a person that why would you do something like this? But if you think about the new type of warfare,
cognitive warfare.
Exactly. It's a cognitive warfare. You don't have to kill people that you are fighting against. You can just degrade their brain. You can,
you alter their minds.
Yeah, alter their minds.
Personalities.
And it's like Chinese torture. I mean, okay, so.
So this gets into creating Manchurian candidates, split personality, and information curtains, satanic ritual. Okay, so they'll say we're the Russian government, we're the Chinese government, we're evil aliens, we're Satan's. So they'll say we're the V2K. So they'll say we're the Russian government, we're the Chinese government, we're evil aliens, we're Satan's, satanic ritual abuse. And I've heard all these stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. The trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government could do this.
It's already being used. I mean,
if you talk to the victims, the TIs, one of the worst breakdowns, and it's pretty common. I think I can say the word simulated rape and forced orgasm.
You can say anything you want. This is the internet.
Okay. And so simulated orgasms and rape is extremely common, and especially violating for women. They complain about that torture breakdown the most.